Welcome to CrossTalk. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes. As you know, this particular program, we do our best to use it as a platform to educate you about some things going on in the two communities we serve, Whitman and Hanson. And the topics can range from things that are going on in either community, issues, upcoming events, especially during election time. We like to have folks in to talk about why they're running for office. Today, we are privileged to have the two chiefs in the town of Whitman. We have Police Chief Scott Benton, and we have Fire Chief Tim Grenno. Gentlemen, welcome back. I think it's been a long time since I've had the both of you, the two of you, here together, just to have a conversation.
Well, thanks for having us. It's happy to be here, Kev.
I have to say though, I believe the last time though we were a little bit more formal. I think I had like a suit and a tie. You guys were wearing your dress whites. We got a little bit more casual today. Good.
I'm a firm believer in casual summer and casual, what's today, Fridays?
Yeah.
Casual Fridays, yeah.
So I got to ask, what's it been like working together? I know part of the reason for the conversation is Chief Benton will be calling it a career with the Whitman Police Department in a few short weeks. So we thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to have the two top department heads in public safety in Whitman to come on in and have a conversation.
Yeah, I'll go first with that. The chief and I both worked together for a long time, just throughout our careers in different positions. And I say this all the time. I was lucky, as you look back on things, you realize the good and the bad, and you appreciate the good a lot more than is on your way out. And having, Tim as the fire chief and working with him has made my job, so easy. I mean, the people in this town, the behind the scenes work that he does, like when it comes to storms, the alerts we get, how he's in constant contact with National Grid. He takes care of any, which certainly includes shelters, opening shelters, closing shelters, power issues, residence issues, flooding issues. I mean, those all fall kind of the fire department. The police department, we support that. We need to block streets, traffic, but basically it falls on the shoulder of the fire department, the preparedness, and he's great. I'm just, whatever you need, and I've truly been blessed. Professional, really, just a squared away guy who I always had respect for anyway, but I certainly gained a new appreciation for in the capacity that I'm in and the one that he's in, so.
Would you like to?
I really have nothing to add to that. No.
Right, just tip your hat.
But you guys have known each other for a long time.
Well, and that's the key to it. And I can say the same thing about Scott, because we've been friends, but we've been business partners too for 30 years, 35 years. We grew up in the same town. We grew up like knowing each other. We started our careers and came through the ranks. And when I was a line officer, he was the 4 to 12 sergeant. After he was the dare officer, which we have some funny stories about, but I don't think we talk about those on TV. But
well, he might want to, but you don't have to.
We have a mutual respect, like growing up through other ranks, and if it was a bad car crash and like I'm like the line officers or an overdose or a death or something like that, we were there together, and to serve as Scott as the like chief of police, he just brought a whole different level of professionalism to the Whitman Police Department. And he did a phenomenal job with managing it and working with the other department heads. And I don't think in the history of Whitman you have ever had a public safety partnership like our two departments have right now.
How important is that? How important has it been for your existence as department heads to be able to rely on the other depending on what the situation is?
Well, I mean, I could tell you I saw how it shouldn't be done. you know.
And learn from that.
Without question, it just makes your life 100% easier when everybody's getting along. When I came to the department, the police and fire did not get along. I didn't know what was going on. Coming in, you think everything is all good and everybody gets along. And I'm even talking within our own department, and I'm like, my head's spinning because I'm going, wow, what is going on here? And I've seen it evolve to, as Tim said, what it is today. And today, it's working like a well-oiled machine. I mean, everybody is out and pulling for each other, and it's we, not me, mentality. And I think that example starts though at the top. I think if the two people at the top are not getting along, and that's where the division comes. So. And that's never been an issue. I mean, like I said, friendship, I'm lucky to have his friendship, but, I also have the benefit of the professionalism and the way that he works. I don't worry about it. I honestly, if there's a storm coming, we talk, and I'm like, we're good. I don't give it another thought. I mean, I know that he's ready. So I'm lucky that way.
And I think the town is fortunate. It's just not only fire and police. Years ago when Winterfest first started, it's probably 25 years ago now. We had people in different departments, like within the town, where the Winterfest people would have to sweep the sidewalks ourselves because they wouldn't send the street sweeper out and stuff. But now you've got Scott that was born and raised in Whitman. You've got myself that was born and raised in Whitman. You've got Bruce Martin in charge of the DPW, who's a department head who was born and raised in Whitman. And it's hometown. And our main focus is to work together for the betterment of the residents of Whitman. There's stuff that goes on in this town that people would be flabbergasted at, that we all handle behind the scenes, and it's taken care of with no risk, and it's done. Where like 20 or 30 years ago, the police would be doing their own thing, and fire might be doing their own thing, and DPW was doing their own thing, and next thing you know, it's on the front page of the paper. So.
Yeah, and just to go off of that, he's absolutely right. Like the DPW, I mean, they maintain our building, the grounds and everything, and they're always there when we need them. And I think that they've brought a new level of professionalism and respect, to their department, which they deserve because, in a lot of ways they're, the unsung heroes, the snowstorms, the tree down, the this and that, they come out and they move it, they open things up, and that's critical. So I think, that certainly is worth mentioning, that, all the departments.
How would you say, since you've each respectively started your careers, how have the community needs in the department changed over the years to where it is now, Chief Grenno?
The demand for service and the different obstacles that the demand for service is throwing at the departments. I started on the call department in 1985, and we dealt with fires and some EMS calls like here and there. And we would have brush fires and house fires and garage fires and kitchen fires and this and that, and we'd have some car accidents. But over the years, that has all evolved to, and we deal with, when Kevin Tocci is home and you need help with something, you're dialing 911 for no matter what that issue is now. And that's a culture change from way back then to now, because people call us for everything and anything, and they want us to solve their problem. And to do that, our demand for service has risen from 961 or 62 calls back in late 70s to 3,000 calls this year. And with the increase in staffing and everything, and we still can't keep up with the demand for service with the current staffing levels that we have. But we always put the public first, and we always put our best foot forward first. And our job is to make your day a little bit better from whatever you're dealing with. And that's what we do.
Chief Benton, same question.
I mean,
How's it evolved? I mean, other than moving from the back of Town Hall in that small dwelling that was called a police station, to now you have a somewhat of a state-of-the-art. It's going on, what, 8 years now that since it's opened? I mean, what else has changed?
well, I mean, the building, like as you indicated, in the old station we had 6 cells, 4 were condemned. I mean, just the standards alone in policing for a building, we wouldn't have met, and we didn't meet. So that's been a big change. But I'll go back to, I came on in '86 as an auxiliary police officer in September of '86. But I'll even go back to my dad and my uncle. My dad was a policeman in Brockton in the 70s, went on in 1970. My Uncle Duke in East Bridgewater. I can remember, a domestic, you tell the guy to go to the bar, have a couple of drinks, and come back when you cool off. You don't do that today.
Yeah.
I mean, everything has changed. Everything. Policing, I think, I can see where fire is service, and they're dealing with the medical stuff, is obviously even the opioids. Look at that. I mean, it's crazy. For us, the climate of the country right now is really dangerous when it comes to police officers. And I don't mind telling you that goes back to a prior administration and a president who didn't act like a commander-in-chief. He didn't unite people, and that's whether you like a guy or not, I don't care. You do your job. Your job is to unite people and bring them together. And if you divide them, you can't. The ball, the snow starts rolling down the hill. It doesn't stop. So you can't say, well, I only got it going. It's going to play out to where it plays out to, and we see what's going on today. Social media, everything. I mean, police officers. I personally would want a body camera. I want the people to see everything, not somebody's 30-second snippet. I want you to see the whole thing. And I've seen departments where they've done that, and they've taken the thing, hey, we'll just throw it up there on the screen. Here you go. And it shuts everything right down. So, the dynamics, there's so many things that have changed from training to, I couldn't even.
And if I can kind of, you and I have had many great conversations. And one of the things you did tell me, you kind of beckoning back to when your dad was out on the beat. He wasn't just a police officer, but back in those days, he was also like a social worker. You know what I mean? And it wasn't necessarily hauling someone off to the pokey, but trying to help them out before you had to drag someone off to jail and do all that paperwork and have them go to court. You wanted to. Taking them away in handcuffs was the last thing. You wanted to at least solve the problem, and hopefully it would be something that would be solved long term and not short term.
Sure, you could tell somebody to park their car and take their keys and drive them home. You can't do that today, because if they leave the house, wander out, hurt somebody, hurt themselves, you're liable.
Right.
Can't just, so unfortunately, policing's changed, but it's also impacted the citizens where you could be cut a break here or there. It's just liability.
What's interesting, you mentioned during your response, the opioid epidemic. How has that transcended your department, affected your department, and had you have to have another focus on top of fighting fires or going out and making sure that the public is safe? Chief Grenno?
The opioid epidemic has in its own way taking quite a toll on the public safety personnel in Whitman, both fire and like police. And what you need to try to wrap your head around and envision is probably, I can make a safe statement that 95% of my firefighter medics have grown up in the town of Whitman or Hanson. So the people that they're responding to and the people that they're dealing with are people that they personally know. So when they go to Mrs. Smith's house and her 26-year-old son has overdosed and is now dead on the floor, they graduated with him. So we see it firsthand and we get it and we understand what that impact is. And our guys and girls are feeling that emotional toll, just like everybody else in the community is. But at the end of the day, we're professionals. We have a job to do, and these guys give 110% of what they need to do. The problem is one of the issues is the stuff on the street right now is taking more than your normal dose of Narcan to wake somebody up or to bring them out of that respiratory arrest or that cardiac arrest. So it's very challenging right now to deal with what's on the street and what we're faced with. Because on the other side of the coin is if they're overdosing and they're in a house that's not, very well established, not one of the best houses in town, what else is going on in the house? So we don't go into any overdoses unless the police are on scene, and that's just a show of the times. Philadelphia last night, I think they were going in for drugs, and
There's a warrant, I believe, right? And again,
there was a warrant?
we're
Yeah.
talking about the 6 police officers wounded in Philadelphia. As we're taping this is a day later as they were going in, and there was a standoff for several hours. You're going to follow up with a response, Chief, in regards to opioids and how it has an effect.
Yeah, it definitely, certainly the response in Plymouth County that we've had as police and fire departments, we have the Plymouth County outreach. Coaches go to houses as follow-ups. Coaches are people who are recovered addicts, and they go with a police officer. We have a database that's, pretty much right on time with, overdoses in Plymouth County. So we would know if a Whitman resident overdoses in Plymouth, we're going to know. It's real time.
Wow.
We just had the same person in this town overdose, I think, 3 or 4 times in the last 2 days or 3 days. Saved all those times. It's tough. And I will say, as much as the opioid epidemic affects us, mental health affects us probably even more. And if we were behind on opioids, we were miles behind on mental health. Not our fault. They expect us to be able to solve everything. But again, it's a great example of a partnership with everybody, clinicians, doctors, same thing with the opioid thing. Everybody getting at the table and saying, what do we need to do? Because we can't do it alone, and we have to work together. That's the only way you're gonna solve it.
Did you want to follow up on that?
No, Scott is 100% right, and you, the other side of the coin on the overdose or on the opioid issues is a vast majority of the time you wake the person up, or you get the person breathing again, and they sit up and they're talking to you, and you've saved their life, and they're thankful and they're talking to you. There's a 10% margin out there where they're not thankful, and they come out swinging, and all they want to do is fight you, and they want to fight you all the way from their house to the hospital, because we have to transport them at that point in time. 1985, 1990, 1995, it was, hey, thanks, and they shake your hand and they go off. Now, my guys are in ballistic vests. Did you ever think that a firefighter would have to wear a ballistic vest just to try to keep themselves safe? And that goes right into our what the chief said about mental health issues. It's a crisis out there, and it's lagging behind us, and we need to catch up. And it's going to be one heck of a challenge.
Knowing that we mentioned it earlier on, you're going to be retiring in September. What do you remember most about your time as a member of the Whitman Police Department? Fond memories.
The fire chief.
Yeah, the fire chief.
Top of the list.
Well, everything runs through your, your mind as you come upon that. To be honest with you, I'm walking away with a good feeling. I've seen a lot of things. There's a lot of things I can't unsee. Some good, some bad. Some happy, some sad. at the end of the day, you know, I think of myself as a policeman who just became a chief for a while. I've always just tried to be the type of boss I'd want to work for, no matter where I was or what rank I was. And you know, I think, and my big thing was just treat everybody fair. I mean, that's all you can ask for really out of life. Just treat me fair. You don't have to give me something I shouldn't get, but just treat me fair. So, you know, I mean, I have a good feeling leaving. I mean, 1986 to now.
Do you have a
seen
favorite
lot of
story?
changes.
Do you have a
I have a
favorite
lot,
story?
but I can't say them. I'll
Give
put
us
it in my book, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
Give
put
us-
it in my book.
We're working on a ghostwriter for that.
Yeah.
But do you have like
that's
a
right.
PG version of a story that well, you know, maybe an antidote that might have you went for a call
Yeah,
or something,
you know-
and then you know what, it was a happy ending. Or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
I do. So years ago, this is back when Temple Street was 2 lanes east and 2 lanes west, and I was working midnight to 8. You know, brand new, 1990, on the road. Very enthusiastic. I love this job. There's still. I believe in what a policeman stands for. I believe that you need them there. They represent the good triumphing over evil and all that. And I was certainly in that mode. So I pulled this vehicle over, probably like, it was after 1 o'clock. Husband and wife. I remember it was they had an Oldsmobile, because my dad had an Oldsmobile Cutlass. They had 2 car seats in the back. So, you know, there was a little swerve, and so the guy was driving, and I said, where you coming from? They were coming from the Ritters Country Club from an anniversary party. And I asked the guy, I said, you been drinking? And he said, yep. And the wife wasn't saying anything, and so I said, have you had anything to drink, ma'am? She said, I had 1 glass of champagne at 8 o'clock. So I said to the guy, I said, you know, why isn't she driving? And he just kind of looked at me, and so I said, well, judging by the 2 car seats in the back, you probably have money to spend on more important things than an OUI that's going to cost you about $6,000. So I said, I tell you what, we're going to have you 2 switch seats, and we're going to pretend we didn't see each other tonight. How's that? You know, the statute of limitations, I guess, is up on that. So anyway, I let them go, and I got to tell you, a week later, I came into work. It was about a week later. And one of the guys said to me, hey, you know, Scotty, there's a woman in the lobby to see you. And it was this wife. And she had a gift certificate in her hand to Christos. And she, you know, she was really nice. You know, she's like, I, you know, can't believe it. And I will say, ethically, I didn't take the gift certificate. But what it was is it made me feel good knowing that there are people out there that do appreciate what you do. And, you know, my dad always said to me, he says, you know, as a police officer, you hold all the cards. You don't have to throw aces on the table every time. Treat people, even if you don't know them, just treat them right. So, you know, that was kind of like the beginning of my career, and it really kind of always stayed with me that, you know, there are people that don't like you, but there are people that get it. So I thought that was a pretty good story, and one I can
Share.
yeah.
Sure.
Recently, you called for a fire chief's list. What's the reason for that? Are you planning on
Well, I
sailing into the sunset and playing golf with this guy in
pretty much.
a few years?
Pretty much, I suggested to the board that they call for a fire chief exam because the lists are good for 2 years. And we currently don't have a list established, and you have to have a civil service list in order to like promote off it. So I suggested that they call for one and have one like probably in April or May of next year. So that list is good for 2 years. You know, my career is quickly winding down. Just like not as fast as my friends here, but I'm right behind them. And you know, a dear friend said to me several years ago, he was a like fire chief in an area town, and the town had asked him to stay on for like 2 more years. And this guy said he goes, look, You've just spent 35 of your best years in the fire service, and you've done this, and this, and made this a better place, and you can walk out the door with your head hung high. You're maxed out on your pension right now. Why would you stay one extra day that can change your entire retirement because there's a bad day at work? And that has always stuck in my head, is that, you know, I've done what I can do. I've made our department a better place, a more efficient place. I've made some positive like changes, and as long as you can hang your head high like the chief is, and you know that you did good, and you know that you left your mark, it's time to go. So I'm at that point, and within the next, I would say probably year to 2 years at the most, you'll have 2 new people sitting here.
We saw some recent promotions to deputy and deputy chief, and I think lieutenant. Mm-hmm. Even had some additions, I believe, maybe a little crossing over the aisle in regards to careers, as I believe one of Chief Benton's son mm-hmm. is now on the fire department. Talk to me about promoting within the department and the importance of that.
You always want to try to promote from within, because the moment that you go outside to promote somebody from within your command staff, you're telling the rest of your department that nobody is worthy for that position. So you have a person that started the job as a 18-year-old or 21 year old, and they've raised up through, and they've done their part, and they've been a great employee, and they're now, say, in their mid-40s or early 50s, and they want to become a deputy chief or a chief officer. And the town says, yeah, you know what? We think that we're going to go outside. You just destroyed the entire morale of that whole department. Because it's our job to make sure that we mentor our people from day one up through to prepare them for what their next steps are. And in the history of our department, on both of us, it's always been internal promotions, and that speaks volumes. We have some great people in our departments, and they will rise and they will shine, and they will just continue on, and the town won't even feel a speed bump.
And I know that they've appointed the next chief and a deputy. Give me your thoughts on, again, promoting within. Tim Hanlon and Joe Bombardier. Talk to me about that.
Yep, I think, I think certainly Tim hit the nail right on the head. I mean, you absolutely are always looking for the next person that's coming into your spot and making sure somebody's ready, and it is demoralizing to the rank and file if you go outside. Tim Hanlon, I can't say enough good things about him. He's been a great partner for me. I take him and have taken him to everything, show him everything. He's been involved in the budget process since day one. There's no doubt in my mind that he'll work out great. I don't see a blip in the radar screen there. I know he'll work good with the chief. He's been a part of the process. Joe Bombardier and I have been friends since we were 8 years old. I'm sure somewhere his mother's smiling down, going, "I can't believe you two," based on everything that has happened. But for both of them, I couldn't be happier for them and their families. And I'll tell you, as chiefs, at least one of the things I think that you learn to adopt is the thought, and I've lived by this, is it can always be worse. No matter how bad your day is, it can always be worse. And you just hope, like Tim said, you don't have one of those days going out the door, because your whole career can change with one bad day.
We got to wrap things up, but I wanted to ask just a couple of real quick questions, quick answers. Retiring, any plans? What do you get for plans post police department career?
I'll be working. I have a couple of
retiring to work.
Yeah, I have a couple of things lined up. Some good things, some fun things for me, and a full-time job. And who knows? I may come back around in politics here. I don't know.
Or we can have you back in when you're to talk about your new book.
Yes.
right? Once we get that ghost
Let's
truck
hope.
together.
bestseller.
I'm ready.
Anything you want to say in closing in regards to this conversation, or even to your friend here?
I want to thank Chief Benton for his was it been 7 years, 9 years
Yeah, seven and a half,
of great leadership and a great friendship and partnership and public safety. You know, Whitman is better today than it was like prior to him because of his professionalism and his dedication, and he did a phenomenal job. And I look forward to working with Chief Hanlon. Like Tim and I, also go back quite a few years, not as far back as Scott and I do, but you know, and Joe Bombardier, like one of the great memories of Joe Bombardier was about 4 o'clock in the morning, a 911 call to his house on Forest Street because his wife was delivering their baby.
Oh.
So, you know, Joe and I think have that
Yeah.
that personal touch.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I wish you the best in your retirement.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And gentlemen, I want to thank you both for coming in and always being willing to have conversations here on Whitman Hanson Community Access, and hopefully they'll continue in another avenue, one way or the other, whether it's as an author or continued as a host of Chief Talk. We can get a new episode out of you. That's all the show that we have, but we thank you very much for tuning in. Until next time, have a great day.